Hey everyone, this is Rachel. Thanks for clicking on my video. And I came in today with a little bit of chit chat. And this chit chat covers kind of several things when it comes to raising a boy. And I just wanted to talk about it because something has been happening here recently that has made me kind of pause and feel sorry for the state of the young black male. And what it is I've told y'all several times that I have a 30-year-old son. And the thing that has been happening is when I run into people that I haven't seen for a long time, they are surprised that I'm not a grandmother. And at first, I took it as a compliment. But then as I started thinking about it, you know, I felt kind of funny about it because what does that say for young black men that everywhere they go, they're dropping babies everywhere? And I even had one person that kind of jokingly said, and I'm paraphrasing because they didn't come out and say this exactly, but they danced around the subject. They said something like, "Are you sure he's not gay?" Now, they didn't use those words, but that's what it boiled down to. And that alone let me know that, that there is an issue. And, I told them, he's not gay. He's dated a lot. He actually lives with a woman now. And, I left it alone. And I got to thinking about, you know, raising sons. And we always talk about what is needed for a girl child. We want to protect her. We want to make sure that whoever she brings into her life doesn't hurt her, the whole nine. But we never really talk about what it takes to raise a boy child. Now, I'm going to say this right off. My son had a father until he was 17 years old. So what I mean by that is he grew up in a two-family home till he was almost 18 years old. So he got the benefit of a lot of watching a man interact with a woman, watching this man go out every day, work really hard to take care of his family. He watched this man do things around the house. He had times where, him and this man would go do manly things things that mom wouldn't like to do. So he did get that. But here's what I'm going to say, and I consider myself an expert because I do have a 30-year-old son, and he has so far turned out to be a really nice guy. I will say this, that I broke up with my ex, like I said, right around the time my son he was just about to graduate from high school. What I realized is it was good that he had that foundation of having a father. But what I realized is those years after he was 18, he almost needed a dad even more. Now, let me also say that my ex died of pancreatic cancer when my son was about 24. So there were a lot of years in between the time that he was 18 and 24 that he was mad at him. So they didn't not have a very good relationship. Their relationship picked up again 2 years before my ex died. So there were 4 years when my son was just out here trying to figure it out on his own with his mom helping him. Now, the reason why I say I believe that those years after 18, a boy needs a father even more is because that's when they actually go out into the world. When we're raising kids, we're giving them tools to take out into the world with them. And we hope that they use those tools, all those lessons we taught them when they were growing up. But we can only hope because when you have a child, they don't come with directions. You just do the best you can and hope when they grow up they take some of those lessons with them when they go out into the world. Now, this is why I say I believe that my son needed, that father later on in his life. Because once he goes out in the world, he goes on a job, he's starting to interact with women, and he's out there in the world. He's going to have questions. There's going to be things that he needs to sit down and talk to a man about. And ladies, not taking nothing away from single moms who have raised their sons all by themselves with no help and come up with very good sons. I still believe that he needs that father. You know, in a lot of cases, it's not up to us, the reason why the father isn't in their life, but that's a whole nother video. We're strictly talking about, you know, young men and them needing that male person in their lives. I noticed that when my son was starting to really, really get into dating, he would say stuff like, I just don't understand women. And I would do my part to ask him, well, you want to talk about it, or you want to, you want to tell me why you say that? And he would hem and haw and, say a couple things, but he really didn't get down to what the problem was. And that's when I believe if he had had a man in his life, he would have sat there and that man would have been able to pull out what it was that was troubling him. You know, I remember when my brother was younger and my mother was a single mother. And I remember it came a point in my brother's life when my brother was having some problem in his life. And he was an adult when this happened. And he broke down crying. And he told my mother that growing up, that the girls had her to help them, to guide them, to steer them through when they were making mistakes and, teach them the right way. And he said, but who did I have? As a boy, who did I have? And at the time, my mother kind of took offense to it because she felt like she had done the best she could. And here was her child telling her that it wasn't enough. But when my mother thought about it, she said, you know what? I understand. He's right. He did need times when he could go maybe fishing or just, you know, somewhere and sit in a park and sit down and talk to someone. It's nothing against us ladies, but that boy child needs, you know, a time when they can sit down just like girls sit down with moms and we teach them how to be women. I believe that a boy needs that as well. See, this is a difficult conversation because there are so many women who are doing it by themselves. There are so many women who have done it by themselves and who have successfully raised boys, good men. So you do not want to take that from them. You don't want to do that. But when I got to thinking about it, when I got to just thinking about my son and how sometimes just looking at him as a mom, it seemed like he was just out in the world, bopping along. And at times he seemed confused about which way to go. And it was at those times that I wish that there was a man in his life that he trusted enough to open up, you know? Because I realize with a boy, it has to be a process. Women, all you got to do is give us a little conversation and we'll start unloading. Girl, this, that, and the other, and we'll start talking about what's going on with us. But with a man child, it's they're not going to show a weakness. It's hard for them to show a vulnerability, and they need to trust you before they're going to be vulnerable. So there were things that I could not help him with when he was 21, 22, 23, those years from 21 to 30, which is the age he is now. There are subjects that he didn't want to talk to me about. Forget that I couldn't help him. There were actually subjects that I think, you know, he just felt, well, my mom can't help me with this. I'm an adult now. I need to handle this on my own, you know. And I feel sorry for young men like that, you know. Now my son did have my brothers and his uncles, but 99% of the time he didn't call them, you know. I don't know why, but he didn't. And sometimes I would look at him out in the world and I would feel like, you know, you did the best you could. You gave him all the life lessons that you could. He knows that you are there if he needs to talk, if he wants to talk. Um, but a lot of times to me, he was like a closed book. You know, he sometimes says that I talk so much that he doesn't get a word in edgewise. And you know what, ladies? I must admit, and son, if you're listening to this, you're right. I do talk too much, and you don't get a chance to really open up, and I need to learn to shut my mouth. Um, I think we do that as mothers because we're trying to get so much in that we forget to let them talk, if that makes sense. Um, you're so busy trying to fix and help him with his problem that you don't even really give him a chance to explain what the problem is before you go into problem solving. And we're guilty of that, at least I am. I just know this, that, and I don't know if I said this earlier in the video, we spend a lot of time worried about what goes on with our girl children, that sometimes we forget that our boy children, they have feelings, they they have everything that's going on with the girl. I had an instance where my son, he recently just started dating this other girl, this other woman, and she wanted to take him home to her family, and have him meet her new man. Now, this is like home. She's in Ohio. They flew down to her home state, and he met all of her family. And one of the girl's aunts called me and said, your son was a hit, but it wasn't easy for him. She said that my family grilled him like they were all branches of the government. And she told me that your son withstood it, and he did it in his own way. He didn't let them, push him, because they were telling him, that age-old thing. What are your intentions? We don't approve of people living together. Are your plans to marry her? And basically, the aunt told me that my son told them that, he wasn't ready for marriage. Um, Basically, nobody was going to push him into a marriage. She came to live with him. It wasn't like he went and lived with her. He told them that it was a process, and basically he was getting to know her, and that's all he knew up until that point, that I'm just trying to get to know her. So when he came home, I asked him, I said, was it uncomfortable for him? Blah, blah, blah. I was just questioning him about the experience. And he, in his own way, he was like, no, mom. He was like, I expected it. And he knows that we do this to guys that are dating my daughter. We give them the third degree. Um, and I had to tell the aunt, that you didn't scrape the bottom of the barrel when you got him. Just like you guys think she's a prize, we think he's a prize. He's a 30-year-old man. He has no drama in his life. He has no children. He's just a young man out here trying to work. He comes from a decent family, and he's a sweet person, you know? And it kind of shut her down a little bit on, you know, asking what his intentions were and all of that, y'all. Because I don't want them to think that, he's supposed to marry her. You know, they don't what where they don't believe in young folks living together. I do. I believe that. Now, I don't mean you're supposed to live with them for 10 years before you decide whether you want to be married to them. But I believe that there is a period of time that you need to live together, because you don't know what you're getting until you actually live together. I don't know how long that living together period should be. I just believe that there should be some period of living together. I guess this video was just in support of the fellas, Like I said, we always focus on the young ladies, and there's nothing wrong with that because we do need to protect them. I just want to say that it takes a lot to raise a young man. And single mothers out there, don't get instantly offended if you hear someone say that a boy needs a father to grow up and be a well-rounded young man. Because just having gone through 30 years of raising my son and seeing him as an adult, I realized that this thing it goes in phases. Like I said, he was fortunate enough to be one of those boys that grew up with a father in the house. And then when he hit 18, there was no father there. And there was a broken relationship that they had to repair. And it was only repaired 2 years before that person died. So through his 20s, when he really needed to talk to someone about, you know, being on the job, and y'all know what I mean, dealing with these white folks, and all that kind of stuff. Things when he's been stopped with the police and just all kind of things that I believe that a man would have a different conversation with him than a mother would have. And I hope that makes sense, y'all. I would like to know your feelings on this. Do you understand what I mean? That yes, women, we can successfully raise a boy by ourselves, completely by ourselves. But there are times in that boy's life that he needs to talk to a man. It's nothing against us. I think some women, they take offense to it, and instantly get defensive. And it's not that. I'm telling you, as a mother of a child that's 30 now, even at 30, he needs to talk to a guy sometimes. There are things that he's not going to tell mom, because I am mom and because I am female, and he has male issues. And it's not like I can't help him, but he doesn't want me to. He needs to speak to a man. And with that, y'all, I'm going to open it up for comments down in the comment section. I'm sure it's going to be some sisters out there that's going to rip me a new one. And I understand that, because when I was younger, I was defensive too. But y'all, I'm just telling you, just having this 30 years of experience, I know that they need it. And with that, y'all, thank you for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Leave your comments in the comment section. Bye-bye now.